but the majority of it's kind of like, I don't know what I'm about to walk into. And then
Right.
you ask that same question at the end, and it's just so much fun to watch the transformation of mindset.
Welcome to the Cleaning Up Podcast, Millionaire Secrets of the Home Services Industry. Brought to you by me, Ron Holt, CEO and founder of Two Maids and a Mop, America's fastest growing cleaning company. I get a chance to sit down with home service industry pros and other entrepreneurial leaders so they can share their stories, their insight, their experiences. It's so much fun. You're going to learn so much. You're going to be inspired to take your small business into a national brand just like I did. Mark Cumicek is the guest. Mark is what is called a dream manager. You may have never heard of something like that. I know I did not. It took me reading a book. I'm a book nerd, as you know. I read a book called The Dream Manager by a guy named Matthew Kelley, and I fell in love with it. It's about a cleaning company that has turnover issues, that has really low morale, that cannot get out of its own way because every time they start growing, they go backwards because people are killing their business. Turnover is just too big, too rampant. So they started helping people accomplish their dreams, chase their dreams, diagnose what those dreams are, and lo and behold, once you start helping people chase their own personal dreams, it carries over into the business. It actually helps the business as well. It's a heck of a concept. And it probably, if you're like me, sounds too good to be true. Mark's here today to tell us it's not too good to be true. Anyone, whether you're a cleaning company, whether you're a janitorial company, like in the book itself, anyone can create a dream manager position and anyone can accomplish dreams for their employees. It's a heck of a concept. I hope your minds are going to be as blown as mine was. Mark's going to tell a fantastic story that's going to leave you inspired and ready to make change inside your own business. So let's get right to the interview with Mark Cumicek.
Mark, welcome to the Two Maids and a Mop podcast.
Thank you, Ron. Absolutely a pleasure to be here.
So there are a lot of people in our network that are fully aware of Dream Manager, but for anyone out there that's not, it's probably a foreign concept that means nothing to them. Dream Manager, what the heck is that? So let's just start with the 101 definition behind dream management and how that relates to an employer in terms of what they're supposed to do for their people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, all this whole concept is based on a fantastic book written by Matthew Kelley back in 2008, which is hard to believe, 12 years ago, called The Dream Manager. And the context of that book and one of the overarching themes you'll see is that an organization can only become the best version of itself to the extent that the people within the organization are striving to become better versions of themselves. And the way to do that, in Matthew's opinion, in my opinion, is by engaging them in healthy conversations on their life goals and dreams. Because far too many people in life, something strange happens between the time they dream without limits when they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old and when they become quote unquote responsible adults. And they quit dreaming and don't give themselves room, don't believe they deserve to, don't give themselves permission to. So the context of it is to get them dreaming again. And by doing that, you get them to articulate things in life that are most in line with the best version of themselves. So if you could do that as an employer, you're putting yourself in an invaluable position to increase loyalty, but also develop invaluable skills within your people that translate not only into life, but into the workplace as well.
So you're saying that as an employer, my job's not just to pay my employees to do their job. There's actually a whole nother level of responsibility as an employer.
I am indeed saying that. Yes, I believe it's your obligation as an employer to help your people fully develop. And it's healthy. It's good business in this day and age too, where work and life are just so closely integrated more than ever.
Well, I'm sure there's someone listening right now who's thinking, hogwash, that's crazy talk. I have my own dreams as the owner of or manager of this business. I don't have time for other people's dreams. My job's to pay you because you work, and that's just how it's supposed to work. Even though it's not 1960 still, right? So let's kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on the Dream Manager book itself. Incidentally, like you said, the book is centered around a cleaning business. In our case, I think it's a commercial cleaning business, but still very much in our wheelhouse. And so it's easy to relate to if you're a franchisee at Two Maids and a Mop. And it's also, any blue collar industry could read this and understand how this could work. But I believe that most of your clients that you work with aren't blue collar in nature. We're one of the few clients you work with that certainly you're in the cleaning business, but even
Right,
blue collar in
exactly.
nature, correct?
You got it. Yes.
So let's go back to the book itself. And if you don't mind, I know that the book has hundreds of pages and it takes more than 3 or 4 minutes to give a review of it, but just give a 3, 4, 5 minute review of the book. And then we'll kind of come back to that with some questions on what we can do as managers and owners of a business to implement inside our own businesses.
Sounds great, Ron. Yeah, the book it's centered on a commercial cleaning business, as you mentioned, who is having astronomical retention issues. So we're talking north of 400%. So they're literally hiring for the same position 3, 4, 5 times per year, which is tremendously difficult. And you can imagine what it does to the bottom line of the organization, not to mention the top line because of quality issues.
Unfortunately, I can relate to that.
Okay. 400%. That's a hard one to swallow, I can imagine. But
yeah,
so they're having all sorts of issues with this turnover. So as an organization, as a leadership team, they're mulling over this and it's at the center of their thought process all the time, but they can't quite find a solution to bring it down. And they try a few different things. Then finally they survey their employees and they find out transportation is a big issue, reliable transportation to the work site. So the first step they take is they put in place a service, a shuttle service to help get their people to where they need to be. And they start to see that employee engagement and naturally then retention starts to improve, but not to the extent that they're looking for. They have not solved the business issue just by putting a transportation system in place. So they dig a little bit further and an off-the-wall concept kind of comes to the forefront. After listening a little bit more to their employees talk through some surveys, they realize that there is a bit of a life goal or dream deficit within the organization, that people are viewing it as a dead-end job. How do you inspire people to scrub toilets, I think is one way they put it. So what they end up doing is putting in place what's called a dream manager, hence the title of the book, who is a resource available to help the employees articulate, reignite, ultimately plan for and achieve their life goals and dreams. And we're talking transcendent of just career development stuff. We're talking about wanting to buy your first house or wanting to take a family vacation to a certain destination or running a marathon or getting out of debt. It's these types of dreams that the dream manager works with the employees within this cleaning company to help, again, articulate, write down, and then take action on and ultimately achieve. What they end up seeing in the end is it certainly has a direct impact on their retention issues, their turnover issues. When they start seeing people succeed and share a dream and then ultimately achieve that dream, others around them see it as well and are interested in the program. But that person that actually achieved the dream, the company saw a tremendous amount of loyalty develop between the employer and the employee in that relationship, which again started to bring down that turnover number that was above 400%.
Right.
So they made meaningful impact there. Kind of one of the side benefits that probably wasn't necessarily anticipated was the skill development that went along with that as well. So if you help people articulate, plan for, and ultimately achieve certain dreams in life, naturally as a part of that process, they're going to learn some things. They're going to learn some financial literacy, some planning skills, and the list can go on depending on the type of dream that you're bringing to life. They also saw that skill development pay back as well. As people became more passionate, engaged in their lives as a whole and developed these skills, they started to show up to work more passionate, engaged, and effective. So it's kind of twofold. Skill development, helping people be better versions of themselves, help them become better versions of the employee they are as well. But they also, just naturally in helping people achieve their life goals and dreams, you create an intense level of loyalty because you're the person that helps someone achieve a pretty substantial thing that had great meaning in their life.
When I read the book, it was someone told. I'm an avid book reader, and so I read so many books, but somehow this one book about my industry had escaped me, and it was about a year ago.
Okay.
Someone that I really admire said, "You got to read this book. It's about a cleaning business," So
right.
I said, "Sure," and I was so mad at myself that I had not read it prior because it really resonated with me. All the things they were talking about from an industry perspective were spot on. It's books written sort of like a fable, fiction, in other words,
it is.
but it's really built on a real story. In fact, you're the one who kind of told me most recently that it's actually, while it is a fictional story, a lot of the stories are personal in nature because they are about a real cleaning company. I believe you said in Cincinnati.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. It's a cleaning company in Cincinnati, and the story is almost directly based on that.
And I can believe it because when I read all the industry stats and I read all of the personal experiences these managers and owners of the business are dealing with, they're all the same stories I've dealt with in the 17 plus years at Two Maids and a Mop. So it's a real life story, even though it's not directly about a real life business,
Right. Well, Ron, one of the things, you mentioned some skepticism around this. I had that after initially reading it because it was written as a fable.
Right.
You're like, okay, you're expecting it to be a little bit more real world experience, and it's a fable. So I had that skepticism. It took me a while just in looking at other case studies and other organizations that have applied it to really say, okay, this is something that can be applied and you can see great results within a true business environment. And then a little bit later, I learned the story behind the story of the Cincinnati-based company, and had the opportunity to really dig into that. And it makes the actual fable all the more powerful.
Right. Yeah. And so, I've always wanted to use Two Maids and a Mop, not just the success at Two Maids and a Mop. I wanted it to do more than just make my life better. I've always had this dream, not to play off the words here, but a dream to not only affect my life, but others around me. And so in franchising, it's a pretty direct correlation there. You open a business in your town, name Two Maids and a Mop, you make some money, go buy your boat, and you're
right.
The fruits of all that hard work and investment. But along the way, in our network right now, we have over 1,000 house cleaners cleaning houses. Right now, somewhere in this country, 1,000 people have on a Two Maids and a Mop pink and white uniform, and they're cleaning someone's home. They work for 80 different owners throughout the country. Those 80 folks, whether if they just started, they might not have purchased the boat yet, but those 80 folks are chasing their dream, while the other 1,000 are working for someone that's chasing a dream. And so what was so exciting to me is to see that, yes, we still have a very mutual goal, us and our franchisees, and that we want to chase dreams together.
Yes.
What if we could also chase dreams with those folks cleaning houses across the country? How exciting would that be? And if it makes everybody's life better, why not? Why not? I'm a people pleaser, so it's another reason. It's another easy thing for me to kind of get my head around, because this is certainly a people pleasing kind of ideology.
Absolutely, it is.
And so when I read the book, I immediately said, let's see if this actually works. And so I went out and I started searching, just the internet, and couldn't really find a whole lot of folks who were dream manager-ish, and certainly couldn't find anyone local.
We're not like plumbers and electricians and CPAs, right?
Somehow, some way, we became connected, and as you know, we put the program in place. So we've been utilizing the Dream Manager program here in our Birmingham operations, and also up in the Huntsville, Alabama location. And it's still fairly new, a couple months in, but it's been a heck of a start. There have been tears shed from employees that have been a part of this. There's been renewed enthusiasm for the job within just one meeting with you, and we literally see a new sparkle in people's eyes, and it, all the stuff you read in the book's great, but when you see it live and in action, man, it's powerful stuff, and it makes you just proud, one, to be a business owner again, and it not to be so capitalistic,
Right.
And I guess before we start talking about what our life experience has been, I'd love to just sort of hear some stories from the road from you, like other organizations you've worked with and what some of their successes have been. And then we'll kind of bring it back to the cleaning industry and Two Maids and a Mop specifically after that.
Absolutely. I'll give you a couple, and these are going to be more individual, but they definitely roll up into the company environment as well. Just one example is we mentioned, so many people don't give themselves the ability or the room and time to dream in life. One particular woman I was working with was in her mid-50s, and the first time we sat down together, she was trying to convince me that she didn't deserve to dream. She was using different terms, but she was not budging whatsoever of jumping into the subject. So, I kind of said, okay, here's the concept. I want you to think about this. And she's like, well, I'm 55 years old and my life is pretty much, in lack of better terms, pretty much over. My kids are gone. I don't know what I want to do with myself. And then we did some math together. She's a fairly healthy person. And we said, okay, realistically, you could live to be another 40 years. Do you want to piss away that opportunity for the next 45 years? Or do you want to put some goals and dreams out there? And it kind of set her back a little bit. And we've transitioned to a little bit of small talk. I said, well, think about that. Think about that for a little bit of time and reach back out to me if you want to start dreaming together. And a couple weeks went by. I was not real optimistic she was going to reach back out. She said, okay, let's do a dream storm. So we circled back, did a dream storm, gave her permission to dream again. And she needed that. Went through that process. She identified, and I challenged her to 100 dreams, which again blew her mind that wasn't possible. But she got to her 100 dreams. Then we narrowed down to 4 that we were going to work on together. So she was out of the gates, started to shift the attitude. We had a few more sessions. And then all of a sudden, about 4 months in, I get a text from her. She's like, I cannot wait to meet next week. I wish we could move it up because so much has changed. And then we sat down and we worked through, and she was talking about the new home she was lining up and how some things relationship-wise had improved in her house too, because that was another dream she was working on. And it was just this incredible energy that just a few short months earlier, we're like, I've got nothing to work towards.
Right.
And then just asking her how that translated to work and showing up at work on a daily basis. And she mentioned it was night and day. And that's her being self-aware of how tackling things and becoming more passionate, engaged in her life as a whole, ultimately had her showing up to work in a more passionate, engaged, and effective manner.
Essentially, it's about purpose, right?
Yes, it is.
And so in my own life experience, I started Two Maids and a Mop when I was in my late 20s, and made a bunch of money, 20s, and had a great career path in front of me.
Yes.
But had this just dying, urge to start a business because I kind of felt trapped, almost like in a prison, even though from the outside looking in it should have been all good,
I could totally relate, Ron.
Yeah. And so that purpose has always driven me, from my late 20s to now. I'm only 31 now, but as we've grown this business over the last 17 plus years now, that purpose is what continues to fuel me. And, along the way, great things have happened, growth, money, and all these really fun things, and still waiting on the boat. But, really, really fun things.
All in due time.
And I think that's what's missing. My purpose was through the ownership of a business. And that makes so much sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to everybody. That's not necessarily the key to everyone's success. And so I can't tell people, well, this worked for me, so you should start your own business. It'll work for you too. People have different ideas of what their purpose in life needs to be. But I think that most people's biggest issue is, like you said, just being honest with themselves and allowing themselves to really think about the future versus just getting through today. And our employees, you've talked to them now. You've talked to them several times, and they live probably a little bit different life than everyone listening to this show right now. Literally 180 degrees. And for us to dream about the vacation in Hawaii or the boat or whatever, is not foreign. And it's something that we all can get on board with. But many of our employees, if not all of them, their issues are paying the bills next week, or getting out of abusive relationship, or just trying to figure out how to find a safe home to live in. it's so many things that we take for granted that they have to deal with. And the idea of, again, a vacation in Hawaii is stupid in their opinion. And so to think about that almost, it feels like a waste of time, I would imagine.
Right.
So,
well, exactly.
So if we can figure out a way to build purpose and dreams inside people's lives, our employees' lives, it opens up their eyes to so many opportunities that before they never thought existed. And again, that directly impacts the bottom line of your business, because a happy employee is going to produce a high work ethic and strong results.
Well, exactly. And you mentioned the word happy, and I'll tie that together. I think employee engagement, that term, which is the leading indicator of the lagging indicator, which is retention or turnover.
Sure.
So employee engagement, how you see that as an employer is the energy level people bring to work on a daily basis. That, if you unpack the energy level that they bring to work on a daily basis, you're going to find whether they're happy or not. And whether they're happy or not is predicated on, generally speaking, you'll find it's predicated on whether they have dreams or life goals that they're actively working towards. That's going to be the barometer of their happiness.
Right.
So the more you can help place that North Star in front of them, you're going to slowly start to increase that level of happiness as they work towards and achieve. You're going to then see them show up to work with a higher level of energy. That's going to affect your employee engagement. And finally, that gets to that retention and turnover issue. It all fits together, but it's centered there.
Yeah.
Centered on the life goals and dreams.
I've been a part of several of your dream storms now. And one of the, I guess, fun experiences that I've been able to partake in is early on, there's a level of resistance from most people, it seems, because dreams, whatever.
Exactly. Right. It's a fluffy term. I don't have time for that.
And so the first question is right out of the gate, like, where do you want to go? And there's almost this, again, resistance to think, I don't want to go anywhere. I've got bills to pay. I've got problems here at home. I don't want to go anywhere. And then you say, okay, let's assume you have no problems. Let's assume you have no debt. There's nothing that you owe the world except just you want to go somewhere. Where do you want to go? And all of a sudden, these people start spouting out all these crazy places, and you feel the energy change when you're talking to them, and all the other questions about, well, what purchase would you make if you had tons of money? What would you do if you could do anything next week? All of a sudden, when you pull all these burdens away from people, their entire attitude changes, and it becomes this fun experience. And so it's just one dream storm that lasts 30, 45 minutes, but it really carries on throughout the rest of their day.
Well, exactly. It's always telling that I love asking the question, give me 1 or 2 or 3 words to describe you, how your state of mind is before the dream session. And usually it's tentative, anxious, uncertain. Right. Sometimes you get a few that are excited or something like that, but the majority of it's kind of like, I don't know what I'm about to walk into. Right. And then you ask that same question at the end, and it's just so much fun to watch the transformation of mindset.
Right.
Just by giving yourself time, space, and permission to dream again. So that's only for a 45-minute segment. And
right. So I'm going to tell a story that a lot of people here can not just relate to, but they feel it because they know who I'm about to talk about. There's an individual that works in our Birmingham operations. Her name is Renee. Renee's been with us for more than 8 years. She's cleaned houses.
Oh, I love this story.
Houses.
Yes.
And, she's always, shows up on time. She's just a great person. And, we kind of honestly taken her for granted over the years because she just shows up. She's always there. And customers love her. And Renee's just Renee. And, when we first started this dream manager or started thinking about it, we said, Renee's got to be our first person we work with because she's been here 8 years. And, other than just cleaning more homes, it hasn't really been a lot of opportunity for her to do bigger things. Make a little bit extra money here or there, sure, but that's kind of as far as we've taken her. Meanwhile, Two Maids and a Mop in the 8 years has just flourished, So I wanted to really figure out a way to accomplish some dreams with Renee. And
Love it.
Renee's personality is to resist things of this nature because it's sounds a little bit too good to be true. She'd rather just show up tomorrow and clean a house. That's all I really want to do. That's why I work.
Oh, yes.
So we kind of had to talk her into it to begin with. And we put her through this whole process. We kind of did our own little mini dreamstorm with her. We not as good as yours, but we tried to do it ourselves. And the first thing she said was she had all this debt, and I'm not going to go into all the personal details, but she had some financial burdens. And then she had some issues at home too. She had, we're in the South, so it's hot in the summer, and she had some air conditioning issues, and that's not a problem you want in the South, right? So she wanted to fix it, but like everything else, fixing it costs money, and she couldn't do it. So we said, you know what, Renee, we're going to fix it for you. And I know that's not the Dream Manager necessarily program. It's not always that simple, because you really want the participant to be actively engaged in that.
Absolutely.
And also working through that. But we felt like 8 years of service, gave her the opportunity for us to prove it. Plus, we wanted to get started with a bang. We wanted to prove to everyone else that this was not just talk. This was real. And so we fixed the air conditioner. It cost us a decent amount of money and a little bit longer than we had expected. But the attitude switch, as soon as that happened, was infectious. So she came in and she said to all the other, as you know, we call them PHCs, all the other PHCs in the office here in Birmingham, she said, guys, this was unprompted, by the way. We didn't tell her to say this. She said, this Dream Manager thing's for real. This isn't just these guys talking.
That's so good.
It's the real deal, and you need to do this. You need to have these discussions, and you need to start dreaming. And if you do, you're going to feel like me. And as she said that, she was crying. It was a really emotional thing for her. And everybody respects Renee inside that office. So immediately everyone said, sign me up, and so now we have more and more people doing it. And not only have we repaired her air conditioner and she's got a working AC unit, but we went on to kind of help her through some financial literacy issues that she was having some issues with, and trying to get her personal financial situation in order. And that's not an overnight fix, but we are working our way through that. And even that, has also reinvigorated her. And her manager, Tracy, everybody knows Tracy in our network, has said that it has not just impacted Renee, but it's infected in a positive way the entire office. And people are excited again about cleaning houses for Two Maids and a Mop here in Birmingham. And not that they weren't before, but it's a whole nother energy level now, and people are actively wanting to do this. In fact, you just signed up 2 new PHCs in the last few days. So
great.
It's I know it sounds like a lot of white cloud, fluffy, too good to be true stuff, but
the term dreams kind of indicates that. Right. That's why you hear me use the term life goals and dreams kind of interchangeably a lot, because sometimes it's just too fluffy of a term for people, and I get it.
You know what? If nothing else, I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be able to say that we're helping Renee and others like her now. I'm proud to be able to say I'm doing more than just providing her with a paycheck to allow her to pay her bills. We're helping her get out of financial debt. One of her dreams is to travel to Miami. She's got family down in Miami, and she hasn't seen them in a long time. And so we're working on a savings program that allows her to save money towards that trip to Miami, which looks like, outside of COVID restrictions, may occur later this year.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You never thought it was possible. A trip to Miami for you and I is whatever. Let's go.
Right.
But for her, it was a life decision. And now that she's able to actually see a plan on how to pull that off, it's again just a big deal for her, and it affects everyone around her as well. So
that's the absolute key to it too, is the planning piece of it. Right. So many people march through life and they're not exposed to that skill set. So helping people develop that, helping them execute on it, holding them accountable to it through regular conversations on it, and then ultimately encouraging them to continue when times will get rough at times. There's going to be obstacles in the way.
Right.
But helping them push through those, you develop something within someone. And I kind of think of it as a flywheel, if you will. Because you start out with dreaming, it might be a small dream right away. Then you develop some skills, some planning skills in particular in this example. And then you might iterate a little bit before you ultimately achieve it. But once you achieve it, you gain confidence.
Right.
Because of those skills you learned, plus the achievement, you gain confidence and you're ready to dream bigger. So I'm excited to see what Renee's dream is after Miami.
Same here. So getting back to the book, the end goal was, I guess not the end goal, but one of the primary goals was to slow down the employee turnover level, increase the morale, which would increase the top line, which of course at the end of the day means a stronger bottom line, which is what we all strive for as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. But ultimately, up front, there's a real cost to this that has almost no scientific measurement behind it. It's very difficult to determine what your ROI is on this Dream Manager program. So this cleaning company, in, I guess not Cincinnati, but sort of Cincinnati, took a shot. They took a shot and they hired a full-time Dream Manager. I don't think that, everyone has, some people do, hired full-time Dream Managers, but in our world, it's possible that there's other ways to pull this off, almost sort of like a consultant type of arrangement where you're hiring a part-time Dream Manager. And that's what we're doing with you here in Birmingham and in Huntsville and hopefully some other places. So how does it work? If you believe in what we're saying, if you're all in, you're fired up about this and you're like, what's next? What do we do next? Like, how can someone work with you? What's the first steps you're going to take them through as you're talking with their employees?
Yeah, absolutely. My approach is just what you mentioned. I make myself available as a fractional Dream Manager. So I could slide in and help small to medium-sized businesses get the benefits that a larger organization can do by bringing on a Dream Manager onto their staff. So I walk through a program, and I like to call it the Dream, Decide, Do, Demonstrate model. So what I do out of the gates is work with the group, do some dream storming, as we referred to, which is basically working through some fun, interactive, and reflective questions together, either individually or as a group. And that is just to give that permission to dream, to get people thinking that, okay, that's something I wanted to do in life and somehow buried it. Let's bring that back to the forefront. Then we move into kind of decide, which is, hey, now that you've dreamed a little bit, if you want to really take this seriously and jump into a program that's going to help you bring some of those dreams to life, raise your hand. So decide to jump in and then decide what dreams you want to work on. Then we move into more, if you're working directly with me, it's going to be pretty much a monthly accountability process. And I say that not to scare people away, but it's a process of meeting every month to refine those dreams, refine the plans, and then have an ongoing conversation of what's going well, what obstacles we run into, how can we move past those obstacles to actually bring those things to life. Then the last piece of it is demonstrate, and that's where it ties it back to the organization. It's kind of what you mentioned with Renee. Let's share some stories. Let's get people excited about it. Let's make sure that energy is contagious and that we're getting some people that were sitting on the sidelines at first watching to want to actively be a part of the program going forward. And then my goal is ultimately through that demonstration too, to work myself out of a job and get everyone in that organization to be able to sustain a Dream Manager program long-term. Whether that's getting the leadership team or you as the franchise owner ready to take this on and just incorporate it as part of your leadership style. Or it's getting someone on your team to kind of do that in a more of a fractional nature along with their day job.
Right.
There's different ways to look at it.
And so there's lots of issues that people have to overcome, and a lot of times that kind of focuses on personal finance. And so in our case, you don't pretend to be a personal financial consultant, you're a Dream Manager, and that's great. And so we're working with a financial person here locally that's working directly with Renee now, along with some other folks. And I guess that's sort of some of these dreams you can manage directly, but sometimes, probably oftentimes, you're going to need to find a local expert to kind of take them down that path. But that's part of your job as well, is to find that fit, that right partner. Maybe they want to buy a house, and
correct.
That's something that you can work with. Let me find somebody that can help you purchase that home. Maybe they'll go back to college. That's something you can do. That's your job. You're going to use your time to go out there and source who they need to talk to about how to figure out how to get into a college, what direction to take from that. And so anyone out there listening, Mark's number one, a great guy. The guy's got the heart of gold.
Thanks, Ron.
And, he's a recent addition to the Two Maids and a Mop world, but man, I feel like I've known him for a long time, and he's given a lot of his time to not just us, but a lot of our franchisees. He's working through a workshop series right now with a few franchisees, and that's going amazingly well. But I would implore anyone out there to work directly with Mark and first and foremost, get the book and read the book and really fall in love with the dream manager concept like we both have. And then talk to Mark, talk to me if you have to, and let's see where this can take you, because we all want the same thing. We want a strong bottom line. We've kind of taken you through the journey of how making dreams come true for employees ends up with a stronger bottom line for your business. And if you can have a strong bottom line for your business while also feeling proud of that business, with a big smile on your face every day because you've made somebody's life better, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? And it almost seems too good to be true, but we've proven in a short amount of time that it can happen, especially in our industry. Sometimes the dreams aren't nearly as big as what you might see in a white collar world. So, Mark, how can people reach out to you and connect?
They can find me at my website at onwarddream.com, or they can look me up on LinkedIn, or Mark C at onwarddream.com.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for helping a lot of these people accomplish their dreams within our company. And I can't wait to keep growing with you. And I hope that we're here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, and we can look back. And not only can we see a strong bottom line for ourselves as franchisees and business owners, but also we can look back and talk about the hundreds of dreams that we've made come true for our employees across the country.
I know what's going to happen. I love the story that's being written. It's fun seeing the early successes because you can just see where that's going to lead. And as we mentioned, it's affecting that energy. And the Renee story is a prime example of that.
Absolutely.
And once that energy, it's a good kind of contagious, not the kind that we've been talking way too much about. That energy spreading throughout an organization can be extremely powerful. And that's what leads to that employee engagement, which again leads to that turnover issue. If that's an issue within your organization, start with the energy level. And that's anchored in dreams. I'm absolutely certain of it. I've seen lots of successes in the past and excited to be part of making those successes a part of your history here at Two Maids.
All right. Well, Mark, we're going to do this again 12 months from now. How about that?
Can't wait, man.
We're going to talk about those dreams.
It's going to be great. Lots of success stories. A whole podcast of success stories. I love it.
That's right. Let's do it. All right. Well, thanks, and we'll talk again soon.
Kyle Davis here from Business Development. Thank you so much for listening to the Cleaning Up Podcast. If you found this episode valuable, then please subscribe on your favorite listening platform, and please share it with your friends. If you're ever interested in going into business for yourself and purchasing a franchise, then don't hesitate to reach out. You can get a hold of me at phone number 205-870-8643, email kyld@ineedamaid.com, or visit us online at twomaidsfranchise.com to learn more.